Libraries are supposed to be the ultimate sanctuaries of peace and quiet. But across the United States, unhinged Americans are routinely turning these silent reading rooms into absolute battlegrounds. We are counting down 55 of the most absurd, ridiculous, and downright stupid library complaints ever filed by patrons who completely lost their minds over nothing. Get ready for some spectacular public meltdowns that will make you question how these people survive in the real world. 1. Finding a comfortable spot to read is crucial, but some people treat public furniture like an extended stay hotel. A man in Massachusetts dragged an entire twin-sized air mattress, complete with an electric pump, right into the middle of the biography section. When a bewildered librarian asked him to pack up his makeshift bedroom, he handed her a handwritten petition. He argued that since the library encouraged people to get lost in a good book, they were legally obligated to provide full overnight accommodations for deep sleepers. 2. You would think a quiet library is the ultimate goal, but one woman in Texas furiously complained to the head librarian that the absolute silence was making her ears ring. She demanded they pipe in soft rock music or at least let people take phone calls on speaker. When staff politely reminded her that she was literally in a library, she threatened to call the mayor. Have you ever been so bored by peace and quiet that you tried to legally mandate background noise? 3. Returning a damaged item usually comes with a polite apology. A terrified reader in Nevada, however, proudly handed over a soaking wet, freezing cold Stephen King novel. She explained to the bewildered staff that the scary story gave her horrible nightmares, so she locked the paperback in her kitchen freezer for 3 days to punish the evil characters. When hit with a water damage fee, she threatened to sue the local government for aiding and abetting supernatural entities. Did she really think ice cubes could stop a fictional ghost? 4. Discovering the vast scope of the planet should be an educational thrill. Instead, a deeply patriotic patron in Georgia was incredibly offended by a modern world atlas. He aggressively slammed the massive map book shut, yelling that it dedicated way too many pages to foreign countries he had absolutely no intention of ever visiting. His formal suggestion was that the library should physically cut out any landmass that was not America to save readers from geographical clutter. Ignorance is one thing, but demanding international censorship via scissors is wild. 5. Historical archives are naturally old, but one visiting scholar in Boston completely lost his mind over the fact that a journal from the 1700s was dusty. He wrote a scathing 3-page letter to the city council, accusing the library staff of poor housekeeping and demanding they wet wipe all the fragile historical documents before handing them out. The guy literally wanted them to take a Clorox wipe to a priceless piece of parchment just so his fingers would stay clean. 6. A totally outraged woman marched back into a Chicago branch just to yell at the clerk because the mystery novel she borrowed revealed the killer in the final chapter. She argued that finding out who did it ruined the suspense she had been building up for days. Her official complaint stated that the library should rip out the last 10 pages of every thriller so readers can imagine their own endings. Who on earth reads a massive detective story and gets mad when the crime actually gets solved? 7. Finding a book is usually pretty straightforward, unless you have a deep hatred for numbers. A patron in Florida left a furious Yelp review claiming the library was forcing math onto innocent people by using the Dewey Decimal system. He insisted that books should be organized by color to make things aesthetically pleasing, completely ignoring the fact that it would be impossible to find a specific title. He swore he would never return until all the spines were sorted into a perfect rainbow. 8. Treating a public learning space like a late-night fast food joint is a wild level of entitlement. One hungry patron in Michigan hit the call button at the reference desk to complain that the vending machines only had granola bars and demanded someone go fry him up some fresh chicken nuggets. When the librarian explained they were not a restaurant, he filed a formal discrimination complaint stating his fundamental dietary right to greasy food was being violently oppressed by the city government. 9. Late-night reading can be spooky, but a self-proclaimed paranormal investigator in Nevada was livid for a completely different reason. He rented out a private study room to conduct a seance and complained to the management that the library did not have enough haunted energy. He actually asked for a partial refund on his parking ticket because the local ghosts refused to communicate through his spirit box. Imagine suing a public building for breach of contract due to lazy invisible spirits. 10. Sharing resources is the entire point of a public institution. Yet a woman in New York threw a massive tantrum because another patron was reading the exact magazine she wanted. She did not just wait her turn. Instead, she marched over, demanded the stranger hand it over immediately, and then complained to security that the library was allowing unauthorized monopolies on the latest issue of Vogue. She genuinely believed her premium tax bracket gave her VIP line-skipping privileges for fashion tips. 11. Expecting museum-level artifacts at a local branch is completely wild. A furious mother in New Jersey stormed the circulation desk because the staff could not provide an original William Shakespeare manuscript for her son's 7th grade book report. When told those delicate documents are locked in high-security vaults across the ocean, she accused the librarians of purposely sabotaging a child's education. This lady seriously expected a priceless 16th century artifact to be sitting right between a Harry Potter novel and the public restrooms. 12. Reality can be harsh, but filing a grievance over global history is next level. One distressed patron in Seattle marched straight to the manager to complain that the non-fiction section was entirely too depressing. To fix this, he demanded they rewrite the books to give events like the Great Depression a much happier, upbeat ending. Can you imagine strolling into a public building and ordering the government to completely retcon the 20th century just to protect your fragile vibes? 13. Understanding the basic concept of borrowing seems pretty fundamental. Apparently, a college student in Georgia completely missed that simple memo. After receiving a late fee notice, he wrote a scathing email arguing that since his tax dollars paid for the books, he technically owned them and should never have to return anything. The absolute entitlement of treating a community resource like your own personal free Amazon delivery service is mind-boggling. Staff had to literally explain the definition of the word library to a grown adult. 14. There is a massive fan base dedicated to the nostalgic scent of old paper. However, a local businessman in Colorado found that aroma deeply offensive. Taking matters into his own hands, he sprayed an entire can of tropical air freshener down the vintage biography aisle before officially complaining that the building smelled like decaying trees. Demanding a public space neutralize its natural scent just because you prefer coconut beach spray is hilariously out of touch. 15. Cooking at home requires a few basic steps like actually buying the food. A bizarre complaint surfaced in Arizona when a woman checked out a massive Italian cookbook and threw an absolute fit because it did not come with complimentary pasta and tomatoes. According to her logic, providing instructions without the raw materials was a deceptive bait and switch scam by the local government. Why on earth would anyone think a public reference desk also functions as a fully stocked grocery store? 16. Free internet access is a fantastic perk for anyone inside the building. Taking advantage of that signal from 3 blocks away is definitely pushing your luck. A guy in Pennsylvania furiously called the help desk to complain that the library Wi-Fi kept dropping while he was playing video games on his own living room couch. To make things even crazier, he demanded the city install a massive signal booster on the roof so he could stream movies without paying for his own provider. 17. Ghostwriters are extremely common in the publishing world, but this historical complaint takes the paranormal aspect way too literally. An incredibly confused college student in Michigan submitted a lengthy grievance about a famous historical figure's autobiography. Her main issue was that the author abruptly ended the book without personally describing their own funeral. She accused the library of distributing incomplete educational materials and demanded a revised edition where the deceased author narrates their journey into the afterlife. Have you ever been so bad at basic biology that you expected a ghost to finish writing a paperback? 18. Knowing what genre you are holding usually helps manage expectations. Unfortunately, a reader in Minnesota completely lost the plot when he filed a formal grievance against a popular celebrity autobiography. The core of his issue was that the author spent way too many chapters talking exclusively about themselves. Missing the entire point of a personal memoir, he strongly suggested the book feature completely random strangers to keep the storyline fresh and unpredictable. 19. Using a cozy reading chair for a quick nap happens to the best of us. Demanding 5-star hotel service during that public nap is a bit much. A guy in California was deeply offended when security gently woke him up at closing time. Furious at the interruption, he left a 1-star review stating the staff failed to provide a wake-up call or a complimentary pillow mint. If you want VIP resort treatment, maybe do not sleep face down on a sticky wooden study table. 20. Librarians are incredibly smart people who can help you find almost any piece of information. They are not, however, certified public accountants. During the peak of tax season, a frantic woman in Miami shoved her entire shoebox of receipts at the front desk and demanded they file her annual returns. When told that was illegal and way outside their job description, she accused them of hoarding financial secrets. Honestly, who trusts a random stranger handling old paperbacks with their federal tax documents? 21. Getting distracted while reading is annoying, but blaming the staff for Mother Nature is a completely wild stretch. A frustrated woman in Washington state demanded the head librarian march outside and silence a flock of chirping pigeons. When told that public employees do not actually control wild birds, she filed a formal grievance regarding the lack of outdoor soundproofing. She seriously expected the city to install an invisible acoustic force field just to protect her afternoon reading session. 22. Language barriers are real, but this level of ignorance belongs in a museum. A patron in North Carolina furiously slammed a novel on the return counter, complaining that the printer had severely misspelled every single word. The bewildered clerk gently pointed out that he had accidentally checked out a Spanish edition of Harry Potter. Instead of admitting his mistake, the guy accused the city of running a massive counterfeit book smuggling ring. Would you ever double down on being wrong this hard? 23. Fictional characters are not meant to be relationship role models. Unfortunately, a newly single woman in Indiana took a historical romance novel way too seriously. She submitted an official request asking the library to reimburse her recent couple's counseling bills. According to her logic, stocking books featuring unrealistic, perfectly romantic dukes gave her false hope and ultimately ruined her actual marriage. Blaming a paperback from the 90s for your impending divorce is a spectacular defensive maneuver. 24. Geography tools have been standard in learning environments for generations. That did not stop a very passionate flat earther in Texas from completely melting down over a decorative wooden globe in the reference section. He aggressively spun the sphere, shouting that the library was actively pushing spherical propaganda onto innocent readers. To resolve this alleged crisis, he officially demanded they immediately flatten all three-dimensional maps into giant cardboard frisbees. 25. Listening to a good story during a daily commute is a fantastic way to pass the time. Yet, a driver in Ohio found a totally absurd reason to reject his latest digital audiobook. He actually called the circulation desk to complain that the narrator of a famous sci-fi thriller did not sound anything like Morgan Freeman. Even though the cover clearly listed a completely different actor, this guy demanded the city fund a custom studio re-recording exclusively for his personal minivan entertainment. 26. Reading about delicious treats is usually a safe, calorie-free activity. A dieter in Florida, however, claimed she had discovered a terrifying new biological phenomenon. She stormed into the lobby and blamed a beautifully illustrated French pastry cookbook for her recent weight gain. Her official written complaint stated that simply looking at the high-definition photos of croissants caused her body to absorb phantom carbohydrates. Did she honestly think looking at paper could make your pants tighter? 27. Public facilities serve a very basic, utilitarian purpose for daily visitors. One highly demanding local resident in Oregon completely misunderstood this concept. She sent a lengthy email to the library board criticizing the harsh lighting and cheap liquid soap in the women's restroom. Her proposed budget update included installing heated marble floors, eucalyptus diffusers, and a full-time attendant handing out warm, fluffy towels. Treating a municipal bathroom like a luxury wellness retreat is a profound level of delusion. 28. Science fiction is absolutely famous for stretching the creative limits of human imagination. Apparently, some enthusiastic readers take those fictional leaps a little too literally. A guy in Nevada checked out an intricate novel about time travel and was furious to discover the technical diagrams inside were completely fake. He marched up to the front desk, angrily accusing the government of redacting the actual blueprints just to keep quantum leap technology hidden from regular taxpayers. 29. Paying a tiny penalty for keeping a book too long is practically a rite of passage. Overreacting to that penalty can quickly turn a minor inconvenience into a ridiculous spectacle. A furious patron in Kentucky actually dialed 911 from the lobby phone because the automated system charged him a 15-cent late fee. He loudly told the emergency dispatcher that the local government was committing an armed robbery against his checking account over a paperback copy of Twilight. 30. Creating a dark, moody atmosphere is perfectly fine when you are reading Gothic literature at home. Expecting a massive public building to match your spooky personal aesthetic is a completely different story. A patron dressed entirely in black velvet submitted a formal grievance because the bright fluorescent lights in the main hall were ruining his vampire lifestyle. He seriously petitioned the city council to board up the glass windows and replace all the modern bulbs with flickering red candles. 31. Trying to get a cash refund for a retail purchase at a totally unrelated government building is peak financial delusion. A highly aggressive man in Virginia marched up to the circulation desk with a crisp, brand-new bestseller he had just bought at a local bookstore. He slammed his original receipt on the counter and demanded the head librarian hand over $30 from the cash register simply because he finished reading it. When staff politely explained they are not a buyback program for private corporations, he threatened to report them to the Better Business Bureau. 32. Protecting kids from bad language is a common goal for plenty of parents. Going after the dictionary, though, is a completely different level of censorship. An outraged father in Utah brought a copy of Merriam-Webster to the front counter, aggressively pointing out a curse word hidden among the thousands of pages. His proposed solution was to have librarians take a Sharpie and permanently redact any offensive vocabulary from every single reference book. Imagine trying to cancel the literal English language because you stumbled across a bad word. 33. Public computers are a fantastic resource for checking emails and printing boarding passes, but they are absolutely not your personal IT department. One severely frustrated senior citizen in Colorado filed an official complaint because the library desktop did not automatically know his private Facebook password. He argued that since he paid city taxes, the government should have all of his login credentials preloaded into the system. It took 3 different staff members to convince this guy that the local library was not secretly hacking into his social media accounts just to make his morning routine easier. 34. Children's literature is supposed to be harmless and interactive, yet one grown man in New York managed to turn a toddler's activity into a ridiculous legal threat. While waiting in the lobby, he casually flipped through a brightly colored dinosaur pop-up book and was apparently jump-scared by a giant cardboard Tyrannosaurus Rex. He immediately demanded a damage claim form, stating the aggressive paper engineering caused him severe emotional distress. Threatening to sue a public municipality over a folded piece of cardboard meant for a 3-year-old is a genuinely wild way to spend a Tuesday afternoon. 35. Preparing for an outdoor adventure requires a lot of practical planning and a decent shopping budget. That memo completely bypassed a patron in Montana who checked out an extreme wilderness survival guide and was furious it only contained words. He wrote a scathing email to the library director, demanding to know why the spine did not have a hidden compartment containing waterproof matches and a thermal blanket. He genuinely believed that borrowing a book on wilderness camping legally entitled him to free outdoor gear funded entirely by the local parks department. 36. Catering to different visual needs is a standard community service, but complaining about the sheer volume of a font is a brand new level of sensory confusion. A woman in Rhode Island brought a stack of large print mystery novels to the front desk and complained that the gigantic letters were practically screaming at her. She insisted that reading such massive text felt incredibly aggressive to her eyeballs. She officially requested the library invent a medium print section specifically for people who just want the printed words to speak at a polite conversational volume. 37. Automation is designed to make checking out faster and vastly more efficient for everyone involved. However, a profoundly lonely guy in Wisconsin felt personally victimized by the complete lack of social interaction from a piece of hardware. He left a highly critical comment card stating the self-checkout kiosk was incredibly rude because it did not ask about his weekend plans or compliment his new jacket. 38. Escaping into a fictional love story is a great way to unwind, unless the plot takes a tragic turn that absolutely ruins your entire evening. A deeply emotional reader in Alabama finished a famously tragic romance novel and stormed right back into the building holding a half-eaten tub of chocolate ice cream. She presented her grocery receipt to the front desk, arguing that the library was financially responsible for her comfort food because they failed to put a trigger warning on the sad ending. She wanted a full cash reimbursement for her emotional calories. 39. Human ego can really get in the way of basic historical facts, especially when you think your family is the absolute center of the universe. A very pretentious local historian in Maine spent 3 hours scanning a comprehensive encyclopedia of global events before throwing an absolute fit. His written grievance stated that the reference book was entirely factually incorrect because it completely omitted his great-grandfather's incredibly obscure shoe repair business. He demanded the publishers halt all future printing until his completely irrelevant family tree was officially added to the timeline of human civilization. 40. True crime enthusiasts sometimes struggle to separate their favorite television shows from actual gritty reality. A highly enthusiastic armchair detective in Nevada was wildly disappointed by the atmosphere of the local mystery section. He complained to the security guard that there were absolutely no active crime scenes taped off in the aisles for regular patrons to investigate. His formal suggestion box entry actually begged the library staff to stage a fake murder mystery with a chalk outline every single weekend just to make picking out a detective novel feel a little more authentic. 41. Expecting reference books to predict the future is a completely new level of delusion. A teenager in Oregon slammed a massive Oxford English dictionary on the front desk, furiously complaining that it was entirely useless. Her issue was that the 1,000-page book did not contain the brand new internet slang she just invented that morning. She demanded the library install a live updating holographic dictionary because printed paper was holding back her social life. Expecting public funds to validate your personal vocabulary is hilariously out of touch with reality. 42. Indoor greenery is usually a calming addition to any public reading room. However, a highly suspicious patron in Texas filed a bizarre grievance claiming the potted ferns by the windows were actively stealing his oxygen. He wrote a deeply paranoid letter to the city council, insisting the library staff was slowly suffocating taxpayers by allowing greedy houseplants to thrive inside. To fix this botanical crisis, he demanded they replace all living foliage with plastic alternatives. Who seriously starts a turf war with a harmless piece of decorative shrubbery? 43. Historical biographies are designed to give readers an accurate look at real human lives. One highly imaginative fantasy fan in Florida completely missed that basic concept. After returning a dense book about Abraham Lincoln, he loudly complained to the head clerk that the plot was incredibly boring because there were absolutely zero wizards or magical swords involved. He officially requested that all non-fiction sections be legally required to sprinkle in a few random dragons just to keep things entertaining. Reality is apparently just not exciting enough for some folks. 44. Accessibility features are crucial, but complaining about them when you do not even need them is peak absurdity. A completely sighted woman in Michigan threw an absolute fit over a copy of a famous novel printed entirely in Braille. She marched over to the reference desk to report a severe manufacturing defect, aggressively pointing out that the pages were covered in weird bumps. Even after the librarian patiently explained what the book actually was, she demanded a cash reward for discovering the so-called printing error. 45. Technology is supposed to make checking out a breeze, yet a very jumpy resident in Utah found it deeply offensive. Every time the barcode scanner made its standard little electronic beep, he physically flinched. He eventually submitted a formal noise complaint, arguing that the tiny chirp was aggressively startling his nervous system. His proposed solution was forcing the city to hire a professional choir to softly hum a pleasant chord every time a book was processed. Treating a standard grocery store sound like a sonic weapon is spectacularly dramatic. 46. It takes a special kind of geographical confusion to complain about a fantasy map. A gentleman in Oregon threw an absolute fit because the map inside his Lord of the Rings book did not include directions to the nearest highway. He accused the library of distributing faulty atlases and demanded they update the Tolkien section with modern GPS coordinates. He honestly thought Mordor was just a really bad neighborhood a few towns over that he needed to avoid on his next road trip. 47. Staying hydrated during a long study session is definitely important. A highly entitled college student in Arizona somehow mistook the public water fountain for a luxury beverage dispenser. He angrily tapped on the glass of the circulation desk, complaining that the tap water was completely unflavored. His official written grievance demanded the municipality instantly hook up the plumbing to a limitless supply of sparkling cherry water. The absolute audacity to expect free gourmet carbonation from a standard stainless steel hallway bubbler is genuinely impressive. 48. During a weekly children's story hour, an impatient father interrupted the session to loudly complain that the librarian was reading the picture book way too slowly. He stood up, tried to snatch the book from her hands, and declared he had urgent errands to run and could not waste his entire morning on the very hungry caterpillar. He demanded the staff provide a fast-forward option for live human readers. Are people really treating real life like a YouTube video they can put on double speed? 49. Getting invested in a gripping detective novel is the mark of a great story. Taking that fiction into the real world is where things get weird. A woman in Pennsylvania called the main branch in tears because the fictional sleuth in her paperback did not provide clues to help find her actual missing car keys. She accused the author of false advertising and demanded the library dispatch a real private investigator to her apartment immediately. Expecting a printed piece of entertainment to solve your personal domestic mishaps is beyond ridiculous. 50. Establishing rules for a peaceful environment is the entire foundation of a reading room. One highly sensitive visitor in Ohio completely misinterpreted a simple piece of plastic. He marched up to the manager and pointed an angry finger at a small "Quiet Please" sign on the wall, claiming the bold red letters were visually screaming at him. He literally filed a harassment complaint against an inanimate object, insisting the city replace it with a gently whispered suggestion written in soft pastel colors. 51. A furious patron in Ohio marched up to the circulation desk and demanded a refund for his library card, which was already free. His reason? The fantasy novel he checked out had way too many big words and ruined his relaxing weekend. He literally filled out a formal grievance form stating the author was showing off and requested the library only stock books with simple vocabulary. Imagine being so offended by the English language that you try to get a refund on a completely free public service. 52. The concept of checking out materials is based on returning them so others can enjoy them. A wildly entitled mother in California completely shattered this social contract over a stack of children's DVDs. When handed a $50 replacement bill for movies she kept for 3 years, she threatened to call the police on the library. Her defense? She claimed the public library system was running a malicious, underground rental scam to bankrupt local families. She genuinely believed she had discovered a massive government conspiracy just because she lost a copy of Shrek. 53. A furious homeowner in Texas checked out a step-by-step plumbing guide and completely lost his mind when the librarian refused to follow him home to fix his toilet. He marched back into the building holding a broken wrench and filed an official grievance. He claimed that providing instructional materials without sending a complimentary municipal handyman was a malicious trap set by the city council. He honestly believed his free library card functioned as a magical coupon for unlimited manual labor. Expecting a lady in a cardigan to snake your bathroom drain is a breathtaking level of crazy. 54. Some people are deeply passionate about their pets, but demanding a public building accommodate your unusual animal is a recipe for disaster. A woman in Washington state tried to stroll into the main reading room with a massive, fully grown iguana perched on her shoulder. When staff pointed out the strict no pets policy, she completely lost her mind. She argued that her scaly friend was a certified emotional support reptile that specifically needed to look at pictures of tropical rainforest to calm its anxiety. She literally accused the librarians of anti-lizard discrimination. 55. And for our final complaint, we have a patron who completely misunderstood the concept of a fictional tragedy. A sobbing woman in New York brought back a heavily waterlogged copy of Titanic, The Complete History. She aggressively demanded a full refund for her emotional distress, screaming at the front desk that the author never warned her the ship was actually going to sink at the end. She was genuinely furious that the library stocked a book with such a depressing finale and wanted them to rewrite history so the boat made it to New York. Have you ever been so detached from reality that you tried to cancel an iceberg? It turns out the loudest things in a library are the absolutely unhinged patrons. Now, I have to know, if you were the librarian, which of these 55 complaints would have made you instantly quit your job? Drop your answer in the comments below and let the debate begin. If you survived this countdown without losing your faith in common sense, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more wild stories.